It is Monday, June 8th, and you're watching the Sick Podcast. Trust the process. We're not even technically into the offseason, and so many things have happened already. Snake, we recorded our last show Thursday morning. Since then, it's been pandemonium in hockey news. So much to talk about. Of course, the Matthew Knies rumor. Is it factual? Would the Habs have overpaid? We're going to break down all of that good stuff. Dylan Larkin has asked for a trade. Could he be a target for Montreal? We're going to tell you very shortly. Which teams are open for business? Who could the Habs be trading with? We're going to give you a good list. And who could the Habs trade? We're going to talk about their trade assets. What do they have to give in order to get? We have two great mailbag questions and so much more. It all starts right here, right now.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Trust the process. The sickest NHL prospect podcast with Snake and Shayne.
With the 5th overall selection in the 2024 NHL Draft, the Montreal Canadiens are proud to select Ivan Demidov.
It's gonna be sick.
Producer Shayne here. Simon, the Snake Boisvert, joining me as always. Snake, how was Halifax?
It was fun. We had very nice weather, and our hotel was next to the arena and downtown, where we ate lots of seafood. But we worked hard also because, it's grueling. These draft days and nights are grueling. I mean, first round took 4 hours. And the second round, you pretty much spend more than half the day at the table picking, 200 players were picked on day 2. So it's like a gigantic hockey pool.
Yeah, pretty much. And you must have had so much fun. Well, congratulations on another successful draft accomplished. I know you and your team worked very hard for it. And I know you got a player you're pretty excited about. Players, I should say. Yeah. So that's good stuff here. And listen, speaking of the draft, we're going to get into the rhythm of the NHL draft very soon. You can be on the lookout for Snake's official list coming out tomorrow.
Yeah, on Mathias et le Serpent. My top 20 will be released. We're recording this afternoon. I'm also going to be talking about other picks beyond the top 20. Because as you know, between 21 and 45, it's a very long second round, in my opinion. But this is where the Habs are going to pick if they don't trade the pick. So we're gonna talk about players that the Habs could be interested in, or maybe some of my top 20 guys will slide, like last year with Zarovsky, whom I had 17th overall, and the Habs got him at 34. So we'll see what happens, and who's number one on my list. We'll see.
Yeah, no, okay. Teasing the fans. I like it. Well, listen, we're also going to talk about your list. Apologies. We're also going to talk about your list, but we'll do so next Thursday. So this coming Thursday, we've got something special planned, and it involves you people, okay? I want to tease it right now, and I'll circle back on it again at the end of the show. We want to hear your trade proposals. Whichever team, whichever players involved, doesn't matter. Send in your trade proposals in the comment section of this video, and we'll circle back and do as many as we can on Thursday this week. But next Thursday is going to be the draft list. We're going to break it down in detail. Snake's going to give us a lot of insights into this draft class. But like I said, Snake, the offseason has technically not even started yet. There is still hockey being played. The Vegas Golden Knights and the Carolina Hurricanes are in the Stanley Cup final. 3 games have been played. Vegas leads 2-1. It's been a very different series than I've expected. Let's talk about it a little bit here because I'm eating crow today. Snake, I'll be the first to admit I'm eating crow. This has been a fun series. It's
Well,
been really fun.
Didn't I tell you at the beginning that when you have two similar teams, you don't know what you're going to get?
I guess not.
And because they kind of play the same style, I would say, in the sense that they're not necessarily run and gun teams.
Yeah.
But those two, I mean, it works. It works. It does fireworks. And Mitch Marner has been absolutely amazing. And all these comebacks, like no lead is safe. No lead is safe. Even in the Stanley Cup. Yeah, even the Stanley Cup Finals. And look, I'm having a lot of fun, and whoever wins the series will deserve it. And it's I know that there's going to be copycats around, or teams are going to try and emulate what Carolina and Vegas did.
Every year.
I don't think there's like really a magic formula to win the Stanley Cup. There's no recipe. It's not like baking a cake. But of course, we can always take something out of this.
Of course.
And perhaps incorporate it to the team we're running. Whether I'm talking about GMs. But you can't necessarily say, okay, we're going to be Carolina next week, because it depends on your roster. But then you can tweak certain things, and sometimes with the coaching and the style of play, and you can always learn from the Stanley Cup champions. But you can't just say we're going to copy these guys.
Doesn't work that
because
way.
it might not work with your roster.
And you have different players.
Yeah.
Players stylistically may resemble each other, but nonetheless, it's impossible to copy a team. But Snake, I mean, I'm hoping this goes 7. Like, I need more of this.
Could be.
I was the number one hater of this series, and I don't know. I always keep an open mind.
Honestly,
keep an open mind, and I'm not afraid to admit when I'm wrong.
In sports, matchups don't mean anything. I mean, look at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Very often, it's supposed to be an amazing matchup, and the game is boring. And other times, it's a very blah matchup, and it ends up being a good game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's the same thing with hockey. I mean, of course, Colorado would have been fun, but they're not there. So, we watch whatever is given to us.
Exactly. Okay, let's get into the big topics now, because when we recorded Thursday, we did not have this information to talk about. And it's funny enough, we were talking about, okay, which big players could be traded this summer? And then 2 names get added to the list. Dylan Larkin asked for a trade, but Matthew Knies, now that name had already been sort of in circulation a little bit, but Dave Pagnotta just put gasoline on the fire there, and he said, yeah, no, the big trade that Kent Hughes was working on was for Matthew Knies, and it just fell through last second. The price was Alexander Zurovsky, another prospect, and 2 first-round picks. Snake, I got to ask you about that now. Would it have been an overpay, or do you think that would have been a fair trade?
Well, first of all, whenever you can trade futures for a young player who's already established and who is a perfect fit in terms of needs, you always have to go for it. I love Zurovsky. I absolutely love Zurovsky. I think he's going to be a star. But he's a few years away. The Habs are in a contention window right now, and basically we know what their needs are. And one of their needs is a guy like Matthew Knies, and he's young. So it's not like you're getting a 28, 29-year-old player whose body, has been has a lot of wear and tear. It's basically a guy who's in his prime. I mean, or entering his prime, whatever you want to call it. Mm-hmm. So no, I think it's fine. And remember the 2 first-round picks. Again, I love first-round picks, but they're going to be lower. Like this year's pick would be 28. I mean, what are you going to get with 28? You might get a good player, but we don't know.
I did a little exercise on that, actually.
Yeah.
These are the last 10
yeah.
28th overall picks.
Yeah.
For the information of our followers here, I'd like to be thorough in our analysis. So we go back to 2016. Okay, the Capitals drafted Lucas Johansson. Where is he now?
Yeah.
Anyways, 2017, the Ottawa Senators drafted Shayne Bowers. Where is he now?
Yeah.
Anyways, 2018, The New York Rangers drafted Nils Lundqvist
Not bad. Not bad.
with the Dallas Stars.
Yeah.
Still an NHL player. 2019, Ryan Suzuki to the Carolina Hurricanes. Still in the AHL. Has yet to break through.
It's been a while now. Yeah.
2020, Ridley Gregg for the Ottawa Senators. NHL player.
Yeah.
Fine. 2021, Oscar Olausson with the Colorado Avalanche. Where is he now? 2022, Jiri Kulich with the Buffalo Sabres. That's a good pick.
Yeah.
2023, Easton Cowan with the Leafs.
Seems like
to be a good pick.
Yeah.
2024, Matvei Grudin with the Calgary Flames.
Yeah.
Too early to tell, but seems to be a fine pick. And obviously, last year, Sasha Boumedian with the Winnipeg Jets. We don't know yet.
No.
So, to give an idea to the people what you could get around pick 28, this is what it looks like, Snake.
I think basically I can see their guys trending up. But if you look at these guys overall, we're talking middle of the lineup players. You know, like basically third liners who could play on a second line. I'm talking about Grudin, Cowan, and Kulich. Greg is a third liner, albeit a very good one, and one that is pretty... He's not very popular with his opponents for a million reasons.
Yeah.
But, you know, he does his job. So that's what you can expect. So obviously you're not giving up nothing. But chances of getting a player like Matthew Knies at 28 are very low. Extremely low. Although Matthew Knies was second round pick.
He was.
But you know what I mean. I mean, we're just talking about the 28 pick. We have to go with probabilities here because, of course, I've heard listeners in the past tell me, yeah, but at 29, maybe there are better guys who are available. And at 30, and so if you take a range of, let's say, between 28 and 33, of course, you're going to find good players. Zarovsky was 34th last year. But we're talking in general. We're talking probabilities here. Like when I always say that the number one pick in the draft has been proven over the last 50 years of the draft. The guy has a 50% chance of becoming the best player of his class. 50%. You have guys like, you know, Crosby and McDavid, but you also have, you know, Aaron Ekblad, who's a good player, but he's not the best player from the draft. So getting back to the 28, look, it's a hefty price to pay. But, I mean, do you think you're going to get Matthew Knies for Owen Beck in the second-round pick? Because Toronto has no reason to trade him, really. Especially now they have McKenna. They seem to be keeping Matthews and Nylander. I mean, for now, I mean, I don't know what direction they're taking. But Matthew Knies is not necessarily the guy you want to trade unless you're pulling a Chicago Blackhawks and you're basically trading away everybody. But I think if you do trade Matthew Knies, you're also trading Matthews. You're also trading Nylander. And you're just starting with Morgan Riley. And basically you're just rebuilding with McKenna and Cowan and whoever. They don't have any prospects. So that's why... do I believe this piece of information? I usually don't speculate on your trade rumors because I think in a way it's kind of a waste of time until things really happen. But this one is interesting because Kent Hughes did say in March that he was working on something big. Is that the thing he was working on? It wouldn't make a lot of sense. Can this be revisited? I don't know. Treliving is gone.
Unlikely is my guess. Snake, I was taken aback when I saw this. I'm like you. I don't understand why the Leafs would want to trade Knies. I think he fits that team fairly well, and he's exactly what they are missing. So why, hurt yourself even more in that sense? But listen, if this was true and it was a minute late to get submitted or whatever it was, I would have been fine with this trade. Yeah. Also, we don't know who the other mystery prospect is, but odds are it wasn't Michael Hayes. Or anything, right?
Maybe Bryce Pickford.
That's it.
Yeah.
I would have been fine. Like, again, this is the kind of player that the Habs are looking to get, and he fits the age range. It would have been weird to see a trade between Montreal and Toronto, but again, that's hockey. Things happen. So I don't think this gets revisited, but I think it was worth discussing nonetheless. And maybe someone in the chat can give us more insights into this and what they think on the matter. Now, Snake, you say you don't speculate on trade rumors. This one's all but confirmed. Dylan Larkin is out. He is out of Detroit. He has packed his bags. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
He has asked for a trade. The guy who was born and raised in Michigan, played for Michigan, captain of the Detroit Red Wings, says, peace out. That is pretty crazy news. What do you make of it all?
Well, I think that if he wants out, obviously there's he probably sees that the thing is that the team is running on a treadmill. Steve Yzerman has been there forever now, and I think if he weren't Steve Yzerman, he probably would have been gone a couple of years
Bye-bye.
ago. I remember Habs fans, older Habs fans, will remember that Serge Savard, who was a very good player for the Habs, was the GM for 12 years, and at some point he was fired. So it doesn't mean that because you've been a star on a team, although Yzerman was a much more of a legend than Serge Savard. But I think you understand my point. It's like Joe Sakic in Colorado.
Yeah.
Are they going to fire Joe Sakic one day? I think they're always going to find a way to keep him around, like bump him up to president or something. So maybe that's what's going to happen with Yzerman. But it's interesting because for some reason I was never a big Yzerman fan as a GM. Obviously, a big fan as a player. He was fantastic. But as a GM, I was never a big fan because I realized at some point that in Tampa Bay, yes, the team did win the cup. But I think a lot of it came from Julien Brisebois. I think Julien Brisebois was probably the big guy behind all this. And in Detroit, I mean, it's been a mess. I mean, of course, they weren't lucky with the ping pong balls in the lottery. That's for sure. They didn't get let's say a Jack Hughes or let's say what you call it. They weren't like they never got the number 1 pick or number 2 pick. However, let's say they had the number 1 pick in 2021. Okay, they went down. They fell down to number 4. They got Lucas Raymond, who's probably the best or second best player in that draft class with Tim Stutzla and Jake Sanderson. Exactly. Would they have taken Lafrenière? Most probably. So I think with Detroit, at some point they wanted to speed up the rebuild, which I call shortcuts, but in a very, very negative way when I say shortcuts, in the sense that at some point you have to speed up your rebuild. The Habs did it last year with Dobson. But we're not talking, again, about a 31-year-old player, expensive free agents. It was basically, a 25-year-old guy. So at some point, you have to speed it up. You can't just wait for only your prospects to become stars. However, if you go out there and you sign, Ben Chirot and Andrew Kopp, and nothing against these players, but they were not really useful for a team like Detroit at their stage of the rebuild. Chirot and Kopp were more for Stanley Cup contenders. So I think, and he went out and got Patrick Kane and the Brinkat, and what was the plan, really? I think it seems like Detroit now is the type of team that is going to battle for a playoff spot. They might make the playoffs, some years, might miss the playoffs another year. And they're going to be a middle-of-the-pack team forever. And all this to say that Larkin probably sees that. He's pushing 30 now, if he's not already 30.
He's 30, yeah.
He's born in 96. He wants to go elsewhere, and, good for him. I think he can be a fantastic number 2 center on a contender. Maybe a number 1 on a weaker team, but I think he'll want to go to a team where he has a chance to win, and that where he would be a fantastic number 2.
Yeah, and then Snake, I mean, to your point, at the trade deadline, the Red Wings traded what would eventually become the 15th overall pick, and then some, for Justin Falk.
Yeah, again,
right?
I forgot to mention this one, but this one is weird.
What are we doing? Like, come on, it's a weird situation in Detroit, and I don't blame Dylan Larkin. Look, I know people in Detroit are up in arms, and they got their pitchforks and their torches ready to killed a guy, really. But I don't blame him. Like, what steps have they taken? The guy has played, I think, 5 playoff games in his career. 5.
Look,
He's 30.
let's say the Habs were like Detroit right now, okay? Just battling to make the playoffs 2-3 years from now, okay? 2-3, still. Fast forward to 2028, and the Habs are still getting 88 points, 91 points. They're not making the playoffs. They missed by 2 points. They missed by 3 points. And Nick Suzuki is 30 in 3 years or 4 years. Would you blame him for wanting out?
Nope.
Okay.
No. Now, this goes into another discussion, Snake, because some people see it one way, some people see it the other. Are you more of a, okay, Dylan Larkin, he wants his cup. You know what? He's a competitor. He knows he won't get it in Detroit. He wants his cup. Or do you see him more as a flip-flopper and a guy who's not really, committed to his team and just wants to go to the best team?
No, because he's been in the organization for 12 years.
I see it the same way.
Look, it's just a career move in the sense that, hockey players' careers are short. Dylan Larkin is fortunate to have a long career in the NHL. I think he will play 15 years when everything is said and done. And he's thinking, maybe I have 4 or 5 good years. Let's go now. I want to play. I want to be in the playoffs. And the good thing for the team that acquires him is that the guy will not have 100 or 150 playoff games under his belt. So less wear and tear. The guy's season always ends in early April. No wear and tear. Because look at these guys who have been in the playoffs like for so many games. I mean, sometimes you add like 2 or 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You look at it in basketball. I mean, LeBron James played 23 years. That's a record. But if you add up the Olympics and the playoffs, I think it's the equivalent of 25 or 26 years. So Larkin is, I think, is relatively fresh. Does he have playoff experience? No, but I don't think it's going to be an issue with a guy like him. He won
a gold medal. He won a gold medal, right?
Yeah,
so the narrative that he's not a winner, that's out of the window.
Yeah. Well, again, being a gold medal winner, if you're like, I always take this with a grain of salt, Stanley Cup winners, but it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt to have been on a winning team. That's for sure.
That's it. Now, Frank Saravalli mentioned that, again, these are just speculations. Take it for what you will. But apparently he did submit a 3-team trade list to Steve Yzerman. Those teams would be the Minnesota Wild, which I think makes the most sense.
Yes.
If I were going a bet way, and if there was an odds, it's the Wild. Minnesota, Florida, Vegas.
Okay.
No surprises here, Snake.
Never underestimate Vegas to create cap space and room for players. Who knows? Maybe he'll play with Trevor Connolly next year.
Oh, my God.
But I think Minnesota, like you say, makes the most sense. Florida, they need to get maybe a little bit younger. Because look at their roster. It's older. I think Florida is going to be raging back next year to the top of the standings with everyone healthy. But Minnesota does make the most sense. The only thing is with Minnesota, is Quinn Hughes going to stay? Or because I think it'll influence what Minnesota does. Minnesota, there are 2 schools of thought. If Quinn Hughes doesn't stay, they have to go all in next year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if Quinn Hughes does stay, you can also go all in. Because then he's staying, but you know that your window is not going to last 7-8 years. Mm-hmm. So I think Minnesota makes the most sense, and they are probably the weakest, let's call it contending team at center, down the middle. I like Eriksson Ek, but
Ryan Hartman.
Right, yeah. I mean, those are bottom 6 players. They're fine, but they're bottom 6 there. Eriksson Ek probably profiles better as a number 2. And maybe even a number 3 on a powerhouse. Mm-hmm. So they need Larkin to be their number 1, maybe a little bit by default, but still, he can be. Like I say, he's kind of a tweener between 1 and 2, depending on the type of team that he plays on. And remember, I'm very, very picky with when it comes to centermen about calling them number one centers. I mean, we
Yeah.
don't all have the same definition of number one center.
There are not 32 in the NHL. No.
There are not 32 in my opinion, and I probably see less number one centers than most people, but it's okay. We all have our definition of a number one center, but I think Larkin can do a fairly decent job at that spot in Minnesota. Yeah.
A 70-point player, and
Yes,
you
yes.
put Kirill Kaprizov on his wing,
Yeah,
probably going to do okay.
exactly.
Odds are he's going to do fine.
Exactly.
Look, it's Monday, and usually on Mondays we talk Habs, so obviously, he is a center, and the Habs are looking for centers. Snake, even though he might not be on their list, should they make an offer? Should they push to get this player? Does he fit the mold?
I would say yes and no. I'll tell you why. As much as I thought that Matthew Knies was a fantastic fit in terms of the age group, and the fact that he I would say doesn't only cost prospect, but what, he doesn't cost roster players. Now, when it comes to Larkin, will Detroit want a roster player or just prospects? That's the big question. If you're going to give away a roster player, you don't want to weaken the position from where you're trading. In the sense that if they want a winger, let's say, well, okay, you're improving at center because Larkin would be a fantastic number 2 in Montreal. But again, which winger do you trade? Is there a fit? Is there a match? You don't want to trade Slavkovsky for Larkin. I mean, there's an 8-year difference. You don't want to trade 50-goal scorer Caulfield for Larkin either. So is there a fit with the Habs in terms of roster players? There would be a fit, however, with prospects. The only thing is, contrary to Matthew Knies, Larkin is 30. And I think he still have a few good years. I do think that the Habs are in a contention window when you can't just be too protective of your prospects. But at the same time, you have to be careful because trading an 18, 19-year-old prospect for a 30-year-old guy, I would do it for a 23, 24-year-old player. Like Dobson last year cost 2 number 1 picks. But for a 30-year-old player, I really don't know. So probably what I would do, I would just try... I wouldn't say give them a lowball offer because it's not going to work, especially that the Habs are not on the trade list. But I would try to protect as much as possible my roster players and my top prospects who are Hage, Zorovsky, and let's include Jacob Fowler. But you know what? They're not going to be interested in Jacob Fowler because they already have a bunch of young goalies.
My goodness, yeah.
So,
Augustine, Kosa, who might get traded, but
yeah.
no, I'm with you there. I don't know that there's going to be a fit between Montreal and Larkin. I know a lot of people when the rumor came, well, not the rumor, the confirmation, let's call it that. The confirmation came out. A lot of people were saying, "Oh, that's the guy. Habs need to get that guy."
Yeah, against Owen Beck in a second-round pick.
Yeah, that's it. Like, not all factors were considered in all of this. So.
I apologize for the silly running gag. It's nothing against Owen Beck. It's just that, Owen Beck right now is an American Hockey League player with probably a bottom 6 ceiling in the NHL. And I think he has a chance to make it. But the point is, every time you see trade rumors like these, Habs always just think that you can include players that, they don't like anymore to get other team stars.
Yeah.
I've seen Kapanen's name a lot.
Of course.
Just because
rookie who scored 22 goals.
Yeah, exactly. That's on paper. But how is he perceived by the rest of the NHL? We don't know. But, maybe he has a good reputation. Maybe this is a guy who could be included in a trade if there's someone who really fell in love with him and thinks, okay, he's a 25 goal scorer.
Snake, you are the champ of transitions, my friend. Incredible stuff. Because we're talking about trade assets, okay? Yeah. We teased it at the top of the show. We're going to spend quite a bit of time on this here. I think there's a bit of a miscue or a detachment. Let's call it that, a detachment. a lot of the fan base and a lot of people outside of the fan base have a hard time understanding, I think, the value of certain prospects, of certain picks, of certain roster player
Yeah.
in trades. This isn't, Chell, right? You're not playing on the PlayStation. This is real life. There's a lot of factors to consider in trades. Therefore, we're going to help you. What the Habs have to trade currently right now, how could you classify it? Like in terms of most value to least, help the people kind of understand a little better what the Habs are working with.
Well, if you include Jacob Fowler as a prospect, they're obviously dealing with a guy who is, I wouldn't say he has proven that he's an NHL goalie, but he certainly proved that he's on the right track to be an NHL goalie. He was the youngest goalie, I think, in the league this year at 21. And
I think so, yeah.
And the Habs would be dealing in a position of strength, because of Dobesh also that in the roster. But I think Fowler could be interesting for a team looking for a young NHL ready goalie, I would say, which is rare. These guys, these 21-year-old goalies, usually they're still in Russia, they're still in Finland. They become stars when they're like 27, 28, very often. So I think he's a good trade asset. Would I trade him? Look, again, it depends on the return, but I wouldn't just trade him for the sake of trading him. I do love Jacob Fowler, but I think he has good value. Maybe not as much value as a Michael Hage, because Michael Hage is a forward and goalies are a little bit more unpredictable, but I do think he has good value. I think the player who has the best value is Michael Hage. He was very good in his 19-year-old season. He was good at the World Juniors also, which seems to influence decision makers a lot. This World Juniors. I think these performances, good or bad, with a grain of salt. Suzuki and Caulfield were not very good, so who cares, if you know what I mean. Alexis Lafrenière was absolutely fantastic. So that's just three examples. But I mean, I think this. I don't. But I do know that it has value, because very often it's the only tournament or time that GMs will gather to see prospects. So I think Michael Hage has the best value. Now, Michael Hage, who could he be traded for? I think if you're going to trade Michael Hage, it better be for a centerman. Because he most probably is, will be a centerman with the Habs. So I think he has to include a centerman, and that centerman shall not be older than probably 26. Because you're giving away a guy who's going to be 20 now. So I'm okay, because look at Nick Suzuki is going to be 27. It's okay. It's the age range. Cole Caulfield is 25. The other guys are a little bit younger. So that's one guy who has value in a package. Obviously not one-on-one, but in a package. Zarovsky, I think, also has value because of his great season in the KHL as an 18-year-old. Probably not as much value as Michael Hage, because he's not North American. But I'm just guessing. I'm just trying to think what other GMs might think.
Exactly.
It's not necessarily my opinion. It's how I feel that he could be perceived. Sometimes you have surprises. Maybe he's at the top of some guys' lists. Maybe he's at the bottom of some guys' lists. Who knows? But I think he does have good value, because look, if he was he was the key guy in the Matthew Knies trade. So obviously he had value for the Leafs and Jim Treliving. Brad Treliving, sorry, Jim is his father. Dragon's Den,
Pizza.
Dragon's Den co-host for many, many years. I think, again, Zarovsky, since he's a winger, although, again, I love the guy, I would probably be more inclined to trade him. It could be also against a defenseman, because the Habs have wingers. So I would be okay. I would be okay with trading him, but again, has to be a young player in return.
Can I chime in on here, because this is really interesting. You're clearly adamant about wanting a younger player in return, but Snake, would you say that the Habs lack wisdom?
Okay,
experience.
You
right?
mean more William Carriers and Eric Robinson and these 30 something Jordan Stahl? Is that what you mean?
In the event that there's I don't have a name in mind, right? But let's just say hypothetically speaking, there is a 31-year-old center who's won the cup. He's a proven NHLer, proven top 6 center, right?
Yeah.
Still has some good years ahead of him, a good contract. And he would cost like a Michael Hagen then some. But he fits exactly what the Habs need, right? He brings those intangibles, can be physical, right? You go down the list, he checks every box.
Okay.
But he is a little older than the average.
That's a very interesting question.
Does that deter you?
That's a very interesting question because my answer is yes and no. First of all, I'll tell you why I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it if the said player is 31 years old, like you say, and the Habs. I wouldn't do it if the Habs are not one player away from winning the cup.
Okay.
This is the type of player, the 31-year-old you're talking about, that for now, I would only give away picks and B prospects. I wouldn't give away a top prospect for him, but I would give away first-round picks and a Bryce Pickford, let's say. Now, if the Habs are like a big... I mean, if the Habs are so close to the cup, you can smell it. And it's March 2nd, and the guy has term, in terms of contract. Like, he has like 2, 3, 4 years left. And they're asking me for a Hage or a Zarovsky, and you know that if the Habs don't win this year, it's going to be next year or the year after. And they're smelling the cup. Of course I do it.
Yeah.
But for now, in this situation, I know the Habs reached the Final Four, but they're not far from the cup, but they are not very close from the cup either. I think there needs to be more tweaking in the lineup. There's more holes in the lineup than a lot of fans think. And those holes were exposed against Carolina. And because, remember, had they been eliminated by Tampa Bay in the first round, let's say, it was a 1-goal game, game 7. Well, probably we'd be talking about redoing the whole thing, the whole team, which would be wrong. But you know how it is. I mean, very often, or if they had lost to Buffalo in overtime in game 7, probably a lot of fans would not have seen the holes in the roster. It took the series against it took the series against Carolina to show to expose certain players, and I think it was good. It was good but I think Ed Hughes and Jeff Gordon, they already knew. But I'm talking for fans in general. It was good to see those holes and say, okay, we're in the Final Four, but we're not there yet. And that's why that 31-year-old player would have to be, if I'm going to give away a top prospect, has to be a compliment. It has to be the cherry on the cake.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
If I do it now as the first trade of the not the retool, but the tweaking, then it's first round picks and lower level prospects.
So now I'm going to keep digging away at this because I love this discussion, Snake. I'm having so much fun. The holes, right? Like off the top of my head, I got 4 holes on this team.
Okay.
Minimum. Like this, that starts at 4.
Yeah.
Could be more. If in the event, again, we're all dealing with hypotheticals. That's the point of this show, right? We're trying to determine what could happen, what will happen.
Things will happen. Things will
definitely happen. In the event, Snake, that they're able to fill the other 3 holes, right? And the only one hole that's left is that second center spot. And the 31-year-old player that I just talked about, right, is available, and he would cost you a lot. But you have that a lot, and you're comfortable in those other 3 holes that you just filled. Do you still wait to do it to see, okay, yeah, the other 3 holes are filled, we're really only missing that one? Or do you pounce on it in the event that maybe that player gets traded to another team and you miss the boat?
Option 1. I wait to see if the 3 guys that are supposed to fill the hole actually fill the holes. I'm not going to wait 3 years, but I would wait until trade deadline.
Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, I think, sometimes I understand the fans that kind of want it all now,
It's normal.
right? And especially since the team
Yeah.
made it all the way to the conference final.
Yeah.
It's like, Habs fans tasted it. They're like, they're so close,
Yeah.
so close yet.
Yeah, they were
so
7
far.
wins away. 7 wins away from the Stanley Cup. But those 7
quite
wins,
many wins.
Yeah, but those 7 wins are very hard to get.
They are the toughest to get.
Yeah.
So point is, Snake, like they're close, but they're not that close yet. And they're not going to fill all those holes this summer either. No. I think that's an expectation that might be a little overblown. I've seen a lot of, mock lineups, right? Like people go on Puckpedia, my GM, and I do it too. It's fun, but make a whole bunch of trades and see, okay, this is the roster for next season. This is what it's going to look like. They're winning the cup. They're winning the cup. It's not, you're probably setting yourself up for disappointment here, but things will happen. Circling back now to the trade assets discussion, any more that you'd like to discuss that we haven't already?
No, but I just thought of a little warning, let's say. Mathias and I have talked about it quite a bit on our podcast over the last season. And especially now, it's very apropos. Fans should not panic or be disappointed if the Habs don't make it to the Final Four next year. Because you know what? It is a possibility that they don't make it to the Final Four. We don't know how things are going to turn out in 10 or 11 months. But it doesn't mean that they're regressing. I wouldn't see it as regression. I mean, I would just see it as a normal path to the Stanley Cup. Will they win the Stanley Cup one day? We don't know. No one knows. But are they in a better position than they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago? Of course, they've never been in such a good position since the last Cup. But if next year they lose in the second round in 7 games, it's not the end of the world. The important thing is you have to see if the holes that you had to fill are actually being filled up. I mean, you have to, this is much better now. Now we got okay. And don't forget that the rookies, the top prospects we're talking about, they're going to be inserted, if they're not traded, they're going to be inserted in the lineup at some point. And these guys are going to contribute, maybe not, obviously not next year. I don't think the year after, but probably in, 28, 29. They might be impact players back then. And there's going to be the normal roster turnover. Some players we don't expect are going to be Habs in 2-3 years. Yep. And some players that we're watching now won't be with the Habs. Last year, who would have said at this time, Dobson, Bolduc were going to be Habs? We didn't know, but they did become Habs. So let's see. And Dobesh, who would have thought that Dobesh would be the number 1 goalie 1 year ago and that he would be fantastic in the playoffs? So there's a lot of ifs. And I know I'm just stating the obvious here, but it's trending well, but it's a long process to the Stanley Cup. There's no guarantee. There's 32 teams, and next year I think you want to see progress in certain aspects of the game where they were weaker this year. But exactly. if Caulfield scores 43 goals, he hasn't regressed. Okay, it's not a big deal. If Suzuki has 95 points instead of 101, it's not the end of the world either. I'm just saying, and if Dobesh doesn't perform miracles every game, it's not the end of the world either. So it's just a little warning about next year. Maybe they'll make it to the Final Four again, like Carolina. Carolina's been the Final Four 4 years out of 8. Maybe they become the next Carolina. We'll see. I mean, the division is tough. Buffalo, Tampa,
Florida's
Boston.
going to be back next year.
Florida's going to be back.
Good luck.
Boston is not bad. I mean, they lack skills and talent, but they're a tough team to play against.
No doubt.
Yeah, they're very tough. Ottawa seems to have plateaued, but they're not a bad team either. And poor Detroit. I mean, oof. It's going to be hard for them to climb up. They had a chance, and I think they blew it. So that's my take on the Habs summer. I think
Yep.
things will happen. Obviously, I mean, you always have to look at the history of a GM, and the history of Kent Hughes is that there's going to be at least one bold move during the summer.
And it's usually in June. He
Well,
loves
that
those
it's
June trades.
it's a time of year when these things happen. Yeah.
Exactly. One last question I have for you, Snake, on the topic. The importance of ELCs is
Yeah.
something that is not mentioned enough, and I think,
Yeah.
but we're going to mention it here because I think every contending team needs at least a few ELCs on their roster in order to have that cap space for those big players. If you only have, those big contracts on your team and not those, right, $950,000, it starts to hurt. So when I hear people say empty the cupboards, trade every prospect, doesn't matter, we don't need them.
Mm-hmm.
In the long run, you need an influx of ELCs. I'm sold on that idea, but I want to hear your thoughts.
Well, I've always been sold on the idea until the cap started skyrocketing.
That's a good point.
Okay, but yeah, I still think that you do need ELCs. Okay, so I'm not changing my mind. It's just that you probably need it less than you used to, especially during the COVID years.
Yeah.
The other point is, I mean, if you look at the Habs players that have been locked up for years and years and years, I mean, there might be a point where Lane Hudson's contract will be like an ELC.
It's a bargain. Yeah,
I mean,
no, it's a
I'm
bargain.
kidding, but you know what I'm saying. I mean, Suzuki is under contract for many more years. I think 4 more years, under 8 million, a tad under 8 million. Caulfield. So the Habs are not in a situation like the Minnesota Wild, where they have Kaprizov at 17, and they're going to have Quinn Hughes, if they re-sign him, probably at 15. So that's the big difference, because it's like the Habs, they get 4 players for the price of 2. I mean, I know Hughes and Kaprizov are megastars, but
Yeah.
I think you get the point. At some point, you have to. That's when you need the ELCs. But if you have a bunch of very good players at $8 million and the cap going up and up and up, you're not going to be in a cap crunch. And especially, don't forget that the Habs, Gallagher's contract is going to be off the books.
Yeah.
And Josh Anderson, if he gets re-signed, might not get the same amount of money. So there are contracts running out. Of course, Demidov will be paid.
Dobesh,
but are they going to break the bank? Not necessarily, unless Demidov next year gets 90 points and Dobesh wins the Vezina Trophy.
Yeah. I always see it more so as like a flexibility, right?
Yeah.
Like having the option of, getting that big UFA or getting that big trade done because he's got a big contract.
Yeah.
You're able to take it on. It's just flexibility that I'm very fond of. I know clearly Kent Hughes is as well. Looking at those contracts, I mean, he has built quite the cap structure, and I doubt that he'll, sacrifice it for a mediocre player who wants big money, right? So all that just to say, trade some prospects, maybe not all though. Keep a few in the roster.
Of course. Like I say, unless you are so close to the cup and you become basically the Tampa Bay Lightning from 5 years ago.
Precisely.
They had. Okay. I mean, they needed Brendan Eagle. They needed all these guys, and it's like, okay, I don't care. I'm giving you the 30th pick. I don't give a damn.
And it turned out pretty well. So they're not at that stage just yet. No. But for this summer, careful on the clear the cupboards. Okay, let's tone it down a notch. Snake, we have more to dive into. Before we do, however, a quick word from Cheapest T-shirts.
Stop overpaying. Buying t-shirts, hoodies, or blank apparel. Same brands, same products. Lower prices. No minimums. Buy one or 1,000, same price. Fast Canada shipping. Multiple warehouses. Stop overpaying. Visit cheapesttshirts.ca.
We thank our friends at Cheapest T-shirts for their partnership with the Sick Podcast. We love them very much, and we know you will too. Another quick word as well for our partners, Betway. you can get a deposit matchup bonus up to $300 on your first deposit with Betway. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create a new account and redeem your welcome offer. The offer is only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Of course, the offer is not available in Ontario. You must be 18 years or older. Please play responsibly. Snake, as I teased at the top of the show, we're going to talk about which teams are open for business this summer, and for whatever the reason may be, right? Let's start with the obvious, the rebuilding teams, okay? The teams that actively want to move on from some of their players to get younger, get those draft picks, get those prospects in, build for the future. Which teams come to mind when I say that?
Well, Vancouver, obviously, I think is a team that has finally committed to full rebuild. But they do have a lot of big contracts to move with no movement clause. So it's going to be tough for them. It's not the typical rebuild when you can just tear it down like this and restart the whole thing. What are you going to do with Elias Pettersson? I think Calgary is also rebuilding. They've already started. They are committed to this. They're going to get a new arena. So I think when they get the new arena, they want to have an exciting young team. Mm-hmm. Who else is rebuilding? Well, the Chicago Blackhawks have been rebuilding forever. Maybe they're going to start actually getting players.
They need to take a step here.
Yeah, not just to get to the salary cap floor. Mm-hmm. So those teams come to mind. Toronto, we don't know. It's not as clear-cut as it used to be because a lot of teams seems to be aiming for a reset, like probably the New York Rangers, the Nashville Predators, the Seattle Kraken, your second favorite team. I don't know. Anyone else you have in mind?
Well, I had them separated. So I have, rebuilds and then retools, right? Or resets, whatever you may be. And there's one team you mentioned here that I'm curious if they actually do a rebuild because they would be a candidate for it, and it's the Nashville Predators.
Yeah.
They just hired Chris McFarland as their GM and president of hockey ops, so he's controlling everything. He's got nobody that, no higher ups here. The only higher up is the owner. So he's in control, and clearly the core in Nashville is good, but it's not contending worthy, right? It's not cup worthy.
Nope.
So would he come in, tear it down, build for the future, or would he give it another go? That's one team I'm kind of keeping an eye on. Bit of a question mark on my end here, but the others. I mean, you mentioned the retool, right? I think Toronto might retool. I don't know what John Chayka and Matt Sundin want to do, but that's a possibility. Clearly, they were close. Well, not them, but Trey Living was close to trading Knies.
Yeah,
that yells retool to me.
Yes.
Detroit is kind of forced into a retool, right? I don't think they're going to rebuild. You can still have a nice core around Raymond and Seider.
Seider, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's going to be a forced retool for Detroit. The Rangers have to do something different. Mm-hmm. Clearly, that's a retool. Seattle is on my list. The other team I was wondering about, Snake, are the Washington Capitals. And I'll tell you why.
Okay, interesting.
Obviously, Alexander Ovechkin does not have a contract at the moment, and he has yet to make a decision on his future. Likely, right? If the odds were on Betway, I would bet that he'd go back at least another year. And say, okay, let's run it back, guys. One more year in Washington, right? There is, however, the possibility that he says, hey, it's been a career. I won a cup. That's it. I'm going back to Russia. Or maybe he's like, I want another cup. Let me go to a contender. I'm going to sign there and see where it goes. If Ovechkin leaves, Snake, I'm really curious as to what the Washington Capitals are going to do. Because if he stays, they're going to try to give him one last go at it, right? They're going to be like, okay, let's actually buy and make a run, try to make a run. If he goes, however, could be a bit of a retool there happening. What do you think?
Well, what's interesting with the Caps is that they have a lot of cap space, no pun intended. As of now,
31 million.
yeah, as of now, they are below the cap floor, which obviously is not going to be a problem to reach. But the Caps, what to do with them? They have some good young players. I think Cole Hudson is a star defenseman in the making, and this is usually one of the first ingredients that you need on a winning team. So I don't think they're going to rebuild at all. Are
No,
they going to
no.
if they retool? Well, what does retool mean? Because they have their defense core is not that old. I mean, Jacob Chikrin is like 28. Fihirvari is 26. Rasmus Sandin is 26. And Cole Hudson, obviously, is only going to be 20. So that's kind of interesting in that sense. There's not much to do out there except wait for Hudson, to gain more experience and become a superstar. I think up front, they do have good young players. Ilya Protas is going to be a Rookie of the Year candidate next year. Ryan Leonard is doing well in his role.
Yeah.
And Alexei Protas is only 25. But then it gets a little bit more complicated in the sense that they don't have any real superstar, especially at center. Dylan Strome revived his career. Pierre-Luc Dubois is a good player, but there's no stars. And as long as they don't have an influx maybe of a good, at least one good young centerman and good young players, I don't think they're going to be a cup contender. So now what do? Do you trade older players for younger ones? Do you trade picks and prospects or young players for older ones? But who do you go? You see, do you go after? What do you call it? Do you go after Dylan Larkin? Do you go after Austin Matthews?
Ooh.
They're in a tough situation right now in Washington because I think they're good enough to be good. I mean, I think you know what I mean. They're good enough. Their roster right now is good enough to be a playoff team, although they didn't make it this year, but they're good enough to be a playoff team, but they are far from being a contender. And I don't think in one summer you can turn things around and make Ovechkin stay to win the cup in Washington. Yeah. And as for Ovechkin, just a quick note: I don't think he know. I think he knows he's not going to reach the 1,000 goal mark because he wouldn't have to play quite a bit more. And obviously, he's going to be 41 in September. Would he want to go elsewhere? Look, it's happened before. Tom Brady went to Tampa Bay. Peyton Manning went to Denver. I mean, Patrick King didn't stay in Chicago. Jonathan Taves had one more year in Winnipeg. I think he's retiring now. Yeah. So there's nothing impossible. I mean, you can't. It's happened before that megastars, legendary players have finished their career elsewhere. Guy Lafleur played for the Rangers in Quebec after Montreal, so it's not impossible. He's going to be a UFA after that 13-year contract that ends. Man, for a 13-year contract, that was a great contract for the Caps.
Big time. Yeah.
Yeah. What was he making? $9 million a year for like so many years? I think he was just making a little bit more than Sidney Crosby. And they had him for 13 years, which at the time, it seemed a little bit ludicrous at the time to sign a 27-year-old guy to a 13-year-old contract. We saw what happened with Ilya Kovalchuk. But Ovechkin, it really paid dividends, and he beat Gretzky's record. Could he go elsewhere? I think it's not impossible.
Yeah. It's a crazy concept to think about, especially for people my generation who grew up with the Great Eight in Washington. But now it's a possibility. That's something that could happen this summer. And I think that will dictate where the Washington Capitals go for the rest of the summer and into next season. So they're a team I'm looking at here, the retool, maybe a potential trade candidate with the Canadiens. Now, cap purposes, teams that are forced to shed some cap in order to make room for whatever reason may be, right? The team that has the least amount of cap space at the moment are the Colorado Avalanche. In fact, they currently have a little under 3 million,
Yes.
which is nothing. And considering the fact that they only have 4 defensemen currently signed, they're going to need a little more than 4 than
Yes.
3 million to get those 4 defensemen. So Snake, they're going to have to make some moves here.
Yeah. It's funny because teams that we suspect will be cash strapped or cap strapped seem to always find a way without necessarily getting that much weaker. However, in Colorado, they have a lot of high salaried players who are locked up for years and years and years. And with no trade clauses, no movement clauses. So, McKinnon, Nakash,
Yeah.
Nelson, Landeskog, Nishushkin, although Nishushkin is tradable, Nazem Kadri. Now, what are they? I think the big decisions in Colorado are going to be with the free agents. They have 3 interesting free agents. They are mostly supporting players, but still, they don't make that much money, but they're not going to be able to re-sign them all. Lehkonen, Ross Colton, and Nicolas Roy. They're both age 29, 30. I think they can be valuable for another 2-3 years, at least, maybe 3-4 years. Are they going to be able to keep them all? I think they're just going to let them go. And on defense, they might have to let go of Brent Kulak, more of a supporting guy, but still, because they have Makar last year of his contract. So basically, Makar becomes a rental player. We all know he's not going to be traded, but he is a rental player, and they're probably going to have to sign him to an extension, a monster extension starting next year, which is going to put them in really salary cap hell at some point. The goalies, Wedgwood is a free agent. What are they going to do with him? He at some point became their number one goalie, and is only paid $2.5 million. So I think they're going to let go of their free agents, and they might have to trade one of their guys. If I had to bet, I would say it's probably going to be Nishushkin. And he probably can be had for not that much because he's going to be what they call a salary cap dump.
That's it. That's it.
For basically
6.125. He's got a 12-team no trade list. He's 31 years old. Signed until 2031.
So they might lose, Colton, Roy,
Or 2030.
Lehkonen, Kulak, and I would say Nishushkin. Then you're fine, and you fill out the roster, with $1 million players. So you're obviously a weaker team than last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Snake, the other 3 teams that I had on my cap
Yes.
list are teams that have, upcoming or current big contracts to sign and are very tight for cash. Vegas Golden Knights, who we know are magicians at making money appear. For somehow they always make it work, but Pavel Dorofeyev, they cannot let that guy go.
Nope.
They're going to have to sign him, and they currently have $4.6 million in cap space. He's going to cost a little more than that, Snake.
Yes, he is. I think they're going to have to make a decision with Rasmus Andersson because he was a nice acquisition for them during the season. I think they probably thought they could re-sign him. Don't forget, Alex Pietrangelo is probably going to be on long-term injured reserve, so they're going to save close to $9 million. As for their free agents, they have a bunch of unrestricted free agents, but Riley Smith, Brendan Saad, Colton Sissons, Cole Smith. It's not going to be a big deal if they part with these guys. I think they can also bring in Trevor Connolly next year as an ELC guy who could contribute offensively. I wouldn't be surprised. So I don't think they're in that much trouble, maybe aside from losing Anderson. And would they have to trade one player? Yeah. Look, Mark Stone, $9.5 million, 1 year left. William Carlson, $5.9, 1 year left. Nick Dowd, 1 year left at 3. I don't know. I think they can get away with it with getting a bunch of $1 million contracts and plus Trevor Connolly as an ELC guy.
Yeah, that's going to be a team to keep an eye on. And another one, Snake, that you correctly mentioned here is going to be relieved by some IR are the Dallas Stars.
Yes.
Okay, we know the Dallas Stars got to sign Jason Robertson, maybe trade him. Who knows? He's asking for quite a bit of money. Now, Tyler Seguin, we don't know what his situation is going to be. They might get that cap relief, but they currently have $10 million in cap space. Robertson's asking for 14.
Yeah.
Something's going to have to move here.
Well, to me, if he's, I like the player, but I think if he's asking for 14, I don't want to give it to him. But look, the guy is probably looking at other contracts, with guys who have similar stats. I mean, the guy has great stats, so I can't blame him for asking for 14 million. But I think Dallas cannot afford him at 14 million. I wouldn't give it to him anyway at 14. Maybe I'd give 11, but not 14. 10, 11, but not 14. Jamie Benn, are they gonna bring him back? I think if they do, it's gonna be on a very, very small contract. Maverick Bork, I don't think it's gonna cost too much. So the big and on defense, they're fine. So and in net also, with Ottinger. So I think the big issue right now with them is Jason Robertson. Look, they have 10 million in cap space, but most of the team is signed for next year, and they're going to get cap relief. So maybe they're going to meet in the middle, maybe end up at 12. If I had to predict, I think Robertson stays in Dallas.
I would too. Yeah,
I think he stays in Dallas, but negotiations could last until training camp. Who knows?
That's it. That's going to be an interesting situation to follow. The last one I have, Snake, and it's not so much that they're, cap tight per se, but the New Jersey Devils are going to have some big decisions to make. And the bigger one is obviously with their captain, Nico Hischier, who's going to want his payday, but also might not want it in New Jersey. So that's going to be another situation for them to figure out. And Sonny Mehta, new general manager, good luck with that one.
Yeah. When you have a new general manager who doesn't have a previous track record as a GM, you don't know what they're going to do, because if a GM is worked before, like Stan Bowman, guys who were rehired, Ken Holland, Peter Chiarelli, we kind of know how they operated. Sonny Mehta, we have no clue how he values Hischier, but I think Nico Hischier is. I'm betting on that he stays.
Yeah, most likely.
Because I don't think he'll cost an arm and leg. This is not a guy with, incredible stats. So he can't ask for $12 million. So it's probably going to be close to 10. He's also very young. I mean, relatively young, I would say. Not too much wear and tear. So this is probably going to a guy who, because remember, there's one thing we didn't mention. It is the last summer where players can re-sign with their own team for 8 years. Then it's going to be 7 years starting in September. Free agents, unrestricted free agents, it's 7 years this summer, then it goes down to 6. So I think teams might want to lock up certain players for 8 years, but at the other end, maybe some players want to be locked up for 8 years, especially the older ones. I think the younger ones, I'm not sure, if Macklin Celebrini necessarily will want to sign for 8 years. The Sharks probably do. But I think a guy like Hischier probably would be looking for an 8-year contract. Mm-hmm. So only in New Jersey this summer can he get that contract.
There we go. So might not be traded. No. Apologize for all Habs fans for maybe tempering your expectations, but that's what we do here.
Yeah, but look,
we tell the truth.
It's just our opinion. Yeah, it's just our opinion. I mean, the guy could be traded before we finish recording this podcast.
Exactly. It's happened before. Yeah. Snake, we're not done quite yet. We're not done quite yet because we have some mailbag questions to get to. So let's go do that. Two great questions in the queue today. The first one coming from Vanessa Chouinard. Hey guys, loving the podcast. Thank you. Question for the Snake. The Canadiens seem to have a knack for consistently developing or finding quality goaltenders. And it looks like that trend could continue with prospects like Dolbesh and Fowler. In a league where so many teams are currently struggling to find reliable goaltending, what do you think Montreal has been doing differently or particularly well over the years to keep producing these quality goaltenders? Is it scouting, development, coaching? Thank you. Thank you, Vanessa.
I think all three, but in my book, it starts with scouting because it's very, very hard to scout goaltenders to try and predict what a 17-year-old will be like. It will be like 7, 8, 10 years down the road. But at some point, it cannot just be a coincidence. You know, when you get Dobesh and Fowler and all the goalies that are coming up, I'm not saying they're all going to make it, but I really do like most of the goalies that they drafted. So I think it comes with scouting. Then coaching must have something to do with it because remember, when they changed goalie coaches, Dobesh really took off. And a lot of people are giving credit to the new goalie coach who used to work in Laval for his performance. But like I say, I'm not there. I'm not a goalie coaching expert, so I'm just speculating here. But for sure, it is important. And as for the development, yeah, the development is important in terms of where do you let the guy develop when he's like 18, 19, 20, 21, because it takes years. And the guy is going to change leagues and he's going to change teams. But this has to be done very methodically. When do you bring an NCAA guy? When do you sign him to a contract? When you bring him to Laval? If you have a Russian goaltender, and the Habs have a couple of them, when do you bring them to either the East Coast League or Laval? How do you manage this? When is it time when they're in the KHL? When is it time to say, hey, now, guy, you're ready to come? Like a guy like Vorokin. You know, Vorokin is a decent goalie prospect. When are they going to sign him? Who knows? But this is very important because you don't want to bring the guy too early. But at the same time, you want him to come over at some point if you like him. Otherwise, he's still going to be in the KHL at 26.
There you go.
And, NCAA goalies, Fowler was there for 3 years. And that's perfect. I mean, was it 3 years or 2 years? Anyway, I think he came at the right time.
For sure. Clearly.
So all three, but it does start with scouting. Vincent Riendo is a scouting goalie from Montreal. And from what I see, because I'm an outsider, but from what I see, he's doing a tremendous job.
Clearly. They've done a good job there. And listen, goalies are voodoo. We've said it time and time again. They're so hard to predict, even though it might look good now. We don't know how they'll look.
That's why you have to draft a bunch.
It's draft, it's evaluation, it's development. There's a whole lot of factors involved into that, but they have done a great job. Question number 2, our good buddy JP Marcoux. What do fans really want? We are currently entering the peak of NHL draft season with mock drafts flooding the internet. Fans get outraged when analysts deviate from the consensus at the top of the first round. Yet they get equally frustrated when those same analysts lack the guts, to say the least, to rank a high upside player like Lane Hutson higher. What is the logic here? JP, you know what if you watch the show, you know what we think about mock drafts, but
but
go ahead.
I think also JP probably refers to draft analysts who are publishing their lists these days, like I'm going to doing my top 20, tomorrow. I totally agree with JP because I've noticed that every time I went, I often break from the consensus list. Not every player, but some players here and there that I've ranked higher than they were, and lower than they were perceived by the scouting community. And man, do you take lots of crap for this. I remember when I had Stützle in front of Lafreniere, I mean, it was scandalous. It was like, it was ludicrous. It was scandalous. It was like, what are you doing? Yeah, this is the consensus guy. Oh, you're just trying to make yourself interesting, and you just want clicks. And no, it's what I thought. I could have been wrong, but I think what happens is that, yes, if someone had ranked Lane Hutson number 1 in 2022, or even number 5, it would have been like, who is that bozo? But when you look at a redraft 10 years later, 15 years later, that year, that list 15 years earlier on draft night would have been seen as a list made by a bozo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's amazing how aggressive sometimes fans can be towards analysts, whether it be Pronman, whether it be Craig Button. When they come up with names that are not ranked where the consensus sees them. And sometimes, you know what? If people knew what NHL lists look like,
Yeah.
they would freak out.
Freaked out. Yeah.
I mean, my colleague Mathias told me that there's one team that had Pavel Mintyukov number 1 in 2022. It doesn't look good today, but that's not the point. I'm not trying to insult that team by talking about this. It just goes to show you that teams don't care about my list, Pronman's list, Craig Button's list. They do their own list. But at some point, a lot of, let's call it, internet scouts, like I am, a lot of internet scouts, they look at each other's list and they're like, oh, okay, I'm just going to move this guy a couple of rankings up. Okay, this guy, everybody has him 10. I don't like him that much, but I'm not going to take him out of the first round. I'm going to rank him at 14. So yeah. I won't take the heat. Look, I don't think we should care. We're just doing this for fun.
Literally,
because
this
we
is
have
just
zero impact. We have zero impact on what NHL teams do. Zero. So if I have Gavin McKenna at number 15 this year, which I don't, by the way, don't panic, it's not going to change anything what the Maple Leafs are going to do. So that's what I have to say. So JP, yeah. I don't know if I answered your question well, but to me, it's very puzzling that there's a contradiction here. That people want bold lists, yeah. But at the same time, they don't want bold lists.
Never understood that, Snake. I mean, we go back to the 2022 draft, right? When Slavkovsky started to pass over right on a lot of lists. What? How dare you? No, it's been right. It's been right all along,
Yeah, and you know what's funny, Shayne? Most fans saying these things, had they seen Wright and Slavkovsky play as much as Bobrov, Martin Lapointe, and company? The answer is
maybe watched highlights on YouTube.
Exactly.
Look, I'm no scout myself. All right, like I don't go to watch the games. I don't look at the prospects. I don't pretend to be a scout. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I just accept the lists, and I like to look at them and see. Oh wow!
It's fun.
Oh, he's got that guy there. Oh, that's interesting. There's nothing to be mad about. Some people, man, get a grip. Anyways, JP, you're not one of those people. We appreciate you, my friend.
And these lists should be revisited because that's what I've done in the past. I've taken older lists and I've revisited them and say, why did I go wrong here? Why did I go wrong there? Why did I have him too low? Why did I have him too high? How can I not make the same mistake now? That's how you evolve, because very often these lists, they come out just to be replaced by next year's list. But no one goes back and says, oh my God, I really screwed up. Or, oh my God, this guy was really good.
Yeah.
It's very instantaneous. It's really in the moment. This is the time of year where we're going to see lists coming out, and we're going to see rage. It's going to be, what do they call it? Rage bait,
Yeah. Some people actually just do that for real. Like
I think
they just
so
put names anywhere just to get reactions. But nonetheless, we know who the real scouts are from the fakes. And
I got to tell you, this year, I don't have obvious surprises on my list. So those who expect me to rank some 8th-ranked guy at number 1, it's not going to happen. But I probably have a couple of guys in the top 10 that I've ranked higher than what we call the consensus. But you remember last year, I had Ben Kiddale at number 10. And I was even surprised he went at number 10, which means that there was a team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, who obviously had him in their top 10.
That's it.
So you sometimes I'm surprised at the fact that my sleepers are well liked by NHL teams, and sometimes they're not. So, I had Trevor Connolly very high 2 years ago. He went at 19, maybe for other reasons, but outside of performance, on ice performance. But so far so good. He's trending well, and let's see what happens. But I remember, I'm still being ridiculed for this pick because supposedly he's 19 and he's not in the NHL already. Okay, who's performing at 19 in the NHL right now? Macklin Celebrini? I think that's it.
Look, time and time again,
Beckett Seneca also.
But he was one. He was shocked himself to be picked number 3. And obviously a lot of people were to see him get picked that high because most of the lists had him around 6 to 7, right?
Yeah, or even lower. Because he was kind of a late bloomer. It was mainly the second half of the season, and also he grew up. There was a guy this year, Wyatt Cullen, who's Matt Cullen's son. 2 years ago, he was 5'5" and 125 pounds.
Wow.
He went to the USNTD camp. I mean, obviously, oh boy, Now he's 6'1", 175. Look, his father is Matt Cullen, 6'1", 200. So obviously we knew that there was going to be a growth spurt at some point. But still, it just goes to tell you that it's okay to have risers. And there are guys right now on the 27 who are not at the top of the 27 list, which will be at the top of the list next year. Right now we're talking about Dupont. We're talking about Alexei Joseph, Nazar Privalov, the Russian guy. You know what? Maybe there's a guy right now who's ranked 30th who's going to be in the top 5 next year.
It really comes down to the wire. And speaking of, you'll get Snake's list tomorrow on Mathias et le Serpent. Make sure you tune in there. And we're going to talk about your list, Snake, next Thursday. And before the draft, we might even have some fun and make our own little mock draft. Who knows? Yeah. You tell us in the comment section, would you like us to do a mock draft? Speaking of the comment section, Snake, I said it off the top. I'm going to say it again. This Thursday, we are breaking down your trade proposals. Send in your best trade proposals, regardless of the team, regardless of the player. We're going to talk about them. Send in as many as you'd like. We want as much as possible. So, with that said, Snake, I think we've covered it all for today. Anything else to add before we get out of here?
Nope. Let's see each other on Thursday. And June is a lot of fun. Stanley Cup Finals, trades, draft.
Yeah.
Maybe the best month of the year in the NHL. Maybe
That's what I've been saying.
July 1st coming up also. July 1st.
Yeah.
Free agents. Not as good this year, but always fun to see roster turnover.
That's it. And for anybody wondering, we will be talking about trade targets. We're going to tell you names, okay? Next week. We're not there just yet. And who knows? There might be some trades to talk about. So we'll do that, of course. For Simon the Snake Bavaya, I'm producer Shayne. This has been another edition, very long one, of the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process. We're back Thursday, baby, and we're counting on you. Send in your trade requests. Send in your trade proposals, I should say. We're going to break it down. You might see yourself on the screen right here. So until then, take care.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast, Trust the Process on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.